There's a moment in sport, a rare, almost uncomfortable moment, when you realize you are not watching someone compete anymore. You are watching someone occupy a different dimension than everyone else on the field. The crowd feels it. The commentators feel it. Even the other athletes feel it. It's not arrogance. It's not luck. It's something colder, quieter, and far more unsettling than either of those things. It's inevitability. The feeling that no matter what happens today, no matter how well the other man plays, the result was decided somewhere long before the first tee shot. We felt that with Muhammad Ali. We felt it with Michael Jordan in 1996. We felt it perhaps more viscerally than any other athlete in the modern era with Tiger Woods in the year 2000. A 24-year-old man who didn't just win golf tournaments. He psychologically dismantled human beings in real time on global television with a smile on his face. But here we are, 26 years later, and there's a man in a white cap standing over a putt, breathing slowly, almost impossibly calm. And the entire field is scared of him too. His name is Scottie Scheffler. And the question the golf world can no longer avoid asking is this what a dynasty looks like before we even know it's happening? If something about this question already has you feeling something, drop it in the comments. Were you there watching Tiger in 2000? Or is Scheffler the first golfer who made you actually feel the weight of greatness? Tell us. This conversation belongs to all of us. Let's go back. Because before we can understand what Scottie Scheffler is doing in 2026, we need to go back to a summer that golf people still talk about in near religious terms. The year 2000. Tiger Woods was 24 years old. He had already won the 1997 Masters by 12 strokes. 12 strokes. In a performance so staggering that Jack Nicklaus himself said the game would have to adjust. And then, somehow, Tiger got better. He rebuilt his swing. Not once but twice. With Butch Harmon by his side, he returned to the tour in 2000 as something that simply should not have existed in professional golf. A man who was simultaneously longer than almost everyone, more accurate than almost everyone, a better putter than almost everyone, and mentally stronger than everyone. Combined, simultaneously. At the same time, there was no weakness to attack. Rivals would sit in their team rooms and try to construct game plans the way generals plan battles, and come up empty, because the math didn't work. If you played conservatively, Tiger's precision destroyed you. If you attacked, Tiger's length and creativity destroyed you. And if somehow you got yourself into contention on Sunday, into the arena with him, his presence destroyed you. The 2000 U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, Tiger won by 15 shots. 15. The entire field of the best golfers on the planet, playing their best golf on a major championship stage, and the winning margin was 15 strokes. That number doesn't make sense. That number belongs in a video game with the difficulty set to the lowest possible level, not a United States Open Championship. Then he won the Open Championship at St. Andrews by 8 shots. Then he won the PGA Championship. He finished that calendar year with 3 major championships and 9 PGA Tour victories. His scoring average that season was 68.17, the lowest in Tour history at the time. He won the Grand Slam across 4 consecutive majors, the Tiger Slam, completing it the following April at Augusta. And the strangest part? He was still getting better. He hadn't peaked. That's what made it terrifying. Now let's talk about a man who, in the most deliberate and almost contradictory way possible, has become the defining golfer of this current era without ever once making you feel like the ground is shaking beneath him. Scottie Scheffler doesn't dominate with drama. He dominates with arithmetic, with repetition, with a kind of relentless, almost meditative consistency that makes watching him feel less like watching a sporting event and more like watching a documentary about inevitability. By the time we reached 2024, Scheffler had already announced himself as the world's best player in a way that was impossible to deny. Winning the Masters, winning Player of the Year, becoming the undisputed world number 1. But what 2025 and 2026 have done is something different. Something that changed the conversation entirely. Because now we're not just talking about a great player having a great year. We are talking about a player who has constructed, methodically and almost invisibly, a sustained period of excellence that has begun to make the golf world whisper the one comparison nobody makes lightly: Tiger. And I want to be honest with you here, because this is not a documentary that's going to give you a clean answer wrapped in a bow. Comparing any golfer to Tiger Woods, especially Tiger in 2000, is one of the most complicated things you can do in sports analysis. And the reason it's complicated isn't statistics. The statistics are actually the easy part. The reason it's complicated is fear. Not the fear the players feel standing across from these men on Sunday afternoon, though that's real too. It's the fear of being wrong. Tiger Woods at his peak was so singular, so unprecedented, that an entire generation of golf analysts, fans, and players have essentially decided subconsciously that no one will ever be that again. That the 2000 version of Tiger Woods was a closed chapter of human sporting history. A locked room nobody gets back into. And for 20 years, that was true. For 20 years, every pretender to the throne, Phil, VJ, Rory, Spieth, DJ, Dustin Johnson, Jon Rahm, each of them flared brilliantly for a season or two, and then the world moved on. But Scheffler hasn't moved on. Scheffler has simply kept coming. Keep going. Keep winning. Season after season, without the kind of human implosion that eventually caught up with almost every other contender. What separates Scottie Scheffler from every other world number one of the post-Tiger era isn't just ball striking, though his ball striking is legitimately among the finest the sport has ever seen. It's something that's far harder to measure and far more important than any statistic on a tour data sheet. It's the way he processes pressure. There is a famous moment from the 2024 Masters, the tournament Scheffler won, where the cameras caught him backstage before his final round tee time. He was crying, not from fear, not from excitement in the conventional sense, but from something deeper and more private than either of those things. He was overwhelmed. He was human. And then he walked out, wiped his face, and played one of the most controlled final rounds in major championship history. That moment told you everything. Because Tiger's version of pressure management was about compression, about taking the enormity of the moment and compressing it into something cold and tactical. Scheffler doesn't compress it. He feels it completely. He allows it to move through him. And then he putts. The machinery doesn't stop. The swing doesn't change. The arithmetic continues. And that might be the most psychologically advanced form of pressure management we have ever seen in this sport, because it requires not the elimination of emotion, but the transcendence of it while still being fully inside of it. If this story is doing something to you right now, if you're sitting there thinking about what it actually costs to be this good, what it takes out of a human being to carry this kind of weight every single week, then hit that button. Not because of an algorithm, but because stories like this deserve to keep being told, and this channel only keeps going if people who feel what we feel stay with us. But here is where the debate gets genuinely complicated. And I want you to stay with me on this, because this is the part that most YouTube videos about this topic skip entirely, because it's uncomfortable. When we talk about Tiger Woods in 2000, we absolutely cannot separate that performance from the field he was playing against. That is not a criticism of Tiger. It is context, because part of what made Tiger's dominance so visually staggering, so cinematically perfect, is that the era he played in was built for individual dominance in a way that the current era simply is not. The early 2000s PGA Tour, for all its brilliance, did not have the analytical infrastructure, the physical training culture, the biomechanical coaching, or the shot tracking data that every single player on the 2026 Tour has access to. Tiger was operating in an environment where his advantages, his physical gifts, his mental architecture, his work ethic, were multiplied by the fact that nobody else had yet figured out how to develop those things systematically. He was essentially playing a different version of chess against people who were still learning the rules. Scheffler is playing chess against people who have all studied the same Grandmaster textbooks. Every player in the top 50 in 2026 has access to TrackMan data, launch monitor analytics, sports psychologists, nutritionists, and swing coaches who understand biomechanics at a level that simply didn't exist in 2000. And Scheffler is still winning, still separating himself from that field, which, when you actually sit with it, might be the more remarkable achievement, even if it looks less dramatic on television. Where do you land on this? because this is genuinely one of the most honest debates in modern sports. Was Tiger's dominance more impressive because the gap between him and the field was so vast and so visible? Or is Scheffler's dominance more impressive because he's sustaining excellence against a field that is, objectively, the most competitive and analytically sophisticated in golf history? Drop your take, because I genuinely don't think there's a wrong answer here, and the conversation in the comments on this one matters. Let's talk about the numbers, because they are worth taking seriously even if we can't let them be the whole story. Through early 2026, Scottie Scheffler has won more PGA Tour events in a rolling 3-year window than any player since Tiger Woods in his prime. His strokes gained statistics across every major category, off the tee, approach, around the green, putting, place him simultaneously in the top tier of the tour, in multiple dimensions in a way that, again, only Tiger has historically achieved. He has won 2 Masters titles. He has finished in the top 5 of major championships at a rate that rivals the greatest players in the sport's history. He has held the world #1 ranking for a sustained period that is beginning to approach the kind of tenure that forces even the most resistant analysts to start using words they swore they'd never use again. What's particularly fascinating about the statistical picture is not just what Scheffler is doing, but the margin by which he is doing it. The strokes gain gap between Scheffler and the second-best player in the world in 2025 and into 2026 is not enormous by Tiger 2000 standards. Nothing ever will be by Tiger 2000 standards, but it is consistent. It doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't disappear for stretches and then reappear. It's simply there, every week, like a tide that never goes out. And then there is the major championship question, because this is ultimately where legacy is built and where the Tiger comparison will either survive or collapse in the fullness of time. Tiger Woods won 15 major championships. 15. The current record. Jack Nicklaus won 18. Those 2 numbers are the architecture of the entire GOAT conversation in men's golf. Scheffler, as of early 2026, has won 2 Masters titles and is in the conversation at every major he enters. He is 29 years old. If he maintains even a fraction of his current form for the next 5 to 7 years, the major championship tally becomes genuinely historic. But here's what nobody says loudly enough. Winning majors is partly about opportunity, health, timing, and the particular week the golf gods decide to cooperate with your game. Tiger was historically great at converting those weeks. Scheffler has shown an extraordinary ability to be present in those conversations. The question is not whether he's good enough. The question is whether the universe will give him the runway that Tiger had before injuries began to rewrite a different, more painful story. Because we cannot tell Tiger's story honestly without talking about what happened after 2000. After the Tiger Slam. After the years of dominance that seemed infinite and eternal. We know what happened. The back surgeries. The personal implosions. The years of absence. The miraculous 2019 Masters that made grown men weep in the gallery. Because it was something we thought we would never see again. And the tragedy embedded in Tiger's story. The part that makes comparing him to anyone almost unfair is that we never got to see what the full arc of his career would have looked like without the physical and personal catastrophe that interrupted it. What was Tiger at 35, at 38, at 42 supposed to look like on a healthy body with a stable life? We don't know. We will never know. And that absence, that lost version of Tiger, haunts the record books in a way that statistics alone can never capture. Scheffler's story, at least right now, has no such shadow. He is married, stable, deeply grounded in his faith, and openly vocal about the fact that golf is not the center of his identity, which is perhaps the most counterintuitive thing about him. The man who is the best golfer in the world has built his life in a way that makes losing a golf tournament survivable in a way it never was for Tiger. And that psychological foundation, that genuine separation between his identity and his scorecard, may actually be the secret weapon that allows him to sustain this level of performance across a longer career than almost anyone before him. When the pressure is at its highest, Scheffler has something to stand on that isn't golf. And that might be everything. Here is the moment in this story where I want to ask you something real. Think about the people in your own life who perform under pressure. The ones who seem calm, when everything is falling apart around them? What is it that they're standing on? Because what Scheffler has shown us is that greatness, sustained, consistent, unbreakable greatness, isn't just about the physical gifts or the technical skills. It's about what you built beneath the gifts. The foundation. The thing that doesn't move when the ground does. And I think that's worth something beyond golf. So, where does this leave us? Was Tiger in 2000 the single greatest sustained peak performance in the history of professional golf? Almost certainly yes. The numbers, the margins, the era, the drama, all of it points to a 12-month window of athletic performance that may genuinely never be replicated in this sport. Not because Scheffler can't reach those heights. He may already be playing golf at a level the human I can't fully appreciate, but because the circumstances that allowed Tiger's dominance to be so visible, so numerically staggering, so cinematically overwhelming, are gone. The field adapted. The sport evolved. The analytical revolution leveled parts of the playing surface. And yet Scottie Scheffler keeps winning. He keeps showing up on Sunday afternoons. He keeps making the difficult look like arithmetic. He keeps walking to the first tee with that quiet, almost unremarkable presence, the kind that makes you forget, until about the 14th hole, that you are watching someone who might be building something that a future generation will look back on with the same reverence we reserve for the player in the red shirt on Sunday. The dynasty isn't announced. It doesn't arrive with a press conference or a proclamation. It builds in the silence between tournaments, in the consistency that stops feeling surprising and starts feeling expected, in a moment when a field shows up to a golf tournament, and the unspoken collective thought is not who's going to win, but how close is anyone going to get to him this time. That moment has arrived for Scottie Scheffler. It arrived quietly, the way all the most powerful things arrive. And the golf world, slowly, reverently, and with a mixture of awe and nostalgia for what came before, is beginning to say the words out loud. Not yet in the same breath as Tiger at his absolute peak, but closer. Week by week, win by win closer. The dynasty isn't announced. It doesn't arrive with a press conference or proclamation. It builds in the silence between tournaments, in the consistency that stops feeling surprising and starts feeling expected, in a moment when a field shows up to a golf tournament, and the unspoken collective thought is not who's going to win, but how close is anyone going to get to him this time. That moment has arrived for Scottie Scheffler. It arrived quietly, the way all the most powerful things arrive. And the golf world, slowly, reverently, and with a mixture of awe and nostalgia for what came before, is beginning to say the words out loud. Not yet in the same breath as Tiger at his absolute peak, but closer. Week by week, win by win, closer. If this story stayed with you, if it made you think about legacy, about greatness, about what it means to build something quietly in a world that celebrates noise, then this channel is for you. Not every video, not every upload, but if somewhere in the last 18 minutes you felt something real about what sport can reveal about what human beings are capable of, stay with us. Because that's the only reason we make these. And the next story is already waiting.